Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I got the Ten of Swords. Look at that brutal illustration. Oh man, I love it. The Ten of Swords is an obstacle, and the Queen of Pentacles as the opportunity today. So let's have a look. Um, I started off today by doing the short video before I do the long one. I think I'm going to switch to this format because it really forces me to kind of consolidate my ideas, come up with some with an overarching idea. And so I'll start with detailing what I said for the short, which is for the Ten of Swords here. I said that dealing with painful situations gets harder when we put off committing ourselves fully to the issue. Made the analogy like slowly, hesitantly walking into a cold lake, and the trick being to embrace the coming shock and just run in. Um, yeah, I feel like this is one of those situations where, you know, a big transformation is coming. The 10, if we look at the order of things, insofar as I subscribe to the evolution of these cards, this is the end of the sword suit, beginning of the cups, right? So this is a radical transformation, and we're going through, we're switching from a lot of structure, which is, can be suffocating and, like a really rigid, it could be imprisoning, right? At the same time, structure has its benefits. There's order. You can be familiar with it. You can count on it. This is a transformation where, going from a high state of order, perhaps too much order, to this highly volatile state of opportunity, new possibilities. But nonetheless, it's a big change, leaving a lot of stuff behind in the past. That's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to deal with. It can be very difficult to let go, and particularly when you're when you're approaching that kind of change slowly. It's like with the analogy of, if you're going into that lake, right? I guess that's the crux of the analogy there. If you have the choice not to go into the lake and you haven't decided yet, the metaphor is a little different. But if you're going in, no matter what, this is a situation. It's coming. It's gonna happen, right? Now, maybe you could put it off for a little while. Maybe you could postpone it, right? Like, so you try and slow things down. Um, that just means that not only are you not dealing with the situation, but now you got to deal with all of the pain and anxiety and bullshit that comes with the act of putting it off, right? So it's like, I love swimming. I love swimming in cold lakes, cold cold showers, all that kind of stuff. Um, and it's one of those really interesting kind of dualistic situations where it's extremely enjoyable and rewarding, and at the same time it's really uncomfortable and painful before it becomes really enjoyable and invigorating, and like, it's amazing. But you do have to deal with this. You have to deal with this pain and discomfort, right? And if you can look far enough ahead to acknowledge that, like, getting getting over that hurdle is ultimately what you want. And if you focus on that part, it gets a lot easier to just, to tell yourself, okay, well, that's the goal here, not avoiding the discomfort and pain. It's We could put that off indefinitely, but then we'll never get to that thing that we're trying to get to. So then, if you acknowledge that, then you can just be like, fuck it. Well, the best thing to do is just literally just dive right in, right? It's gonna, there's gonna be that shock. There's gonna be that pain. It's not like it's not gonna hurt, but it won't last nearly as long. Or, you could use the ripping off the band-aid metaphor, and any of those. Just get it over with, consolidate all the, you know, consolidate all the pain and suffering into a single moment, and ultimately it will be far less than the sum of all of the smaller parts, right? So yeah, this could symbolize, resistance to moving on from, you know, your company's falling apart, your relationship's falling apart, not even falling apart, like it's falling apart, it's done, right? You're just still hanging on. The ideas are the ideas are lingering. You're you know the Marseille card, all the Marseille cards, they've got this interesting kind of half circles going in two directions, and all of the even cards, I think, they kind of symbolize this. What could I call it? Like being this situation where ideas are locked in place, right? Like you can somebody says, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?" And you're like, "Well, I can think of 6 reasons why it's a good idea and 6 reasons why it's a bad idea." Now, having all that knowledge, like ironically, makes you less able to make any decisions because you're just frozen, right? Like you have so many reasons not to do it, so many reasons to do it. And of I think the pain of moving forward, often in situations like that, is is the pain of just of letting go of that whole system, right? And in this case, it's all these ideas and stories and narratives and words, right? And the thing that's really scary is to just stop acknowledging all the stories and all the narratives. And if this is like a company that you're no longer running, or you're no longer at, or you flunked out of school, or it's a relationship that failed, the the thing that can make it really difficult is like trying to settle on a narrative that's going to make sense to you. How will I ever explain? What if somebody asks me, "Hey, are you still working at that place?" What the fuck am I going to say? You know, trying to come up with that narrative that's going to make sense, and trying to balance all the facts in a way that just works for you, right? Um, I think the real pain is just like the act of just saying, like, you know what, fuck it, like none of that matters. I'm not even thinking about that stuff anymore. And moving over to the Suit of Cups, I think it reminds me of something. Who was it? Who said it? Descartes? Fucking, I can't remember. I should really write down the quotes that I like. But anyway, someone said that people should look to decide how to act. People should look to how they feel, right? Not how they think. Just an interesting counter to the kind of like the idea that reason should guide you, right? It's like reason reason can't really motivate people to any particular direction. Once you have a direction, once you have some aim, I feel like reason can now justify that direction, help you along the path to it. But I think a lot of people often have this crisis of like deciding the first step, deciding the first direction. And I think that all the reasoning of the Suit of Swords ultimately can't provide that. And at some point, maybe once you get to this advanced state of existentialist postmodern, like this critical balance of, well, everything I believe in is true and it's also untrue, and I have supporting and negating ways of reasoning any position. At a certain point, it's just like you have to jump over to what is it that inspires you, what is it that actually makes you feel something, what is a virtue, what is a feeling that is going to guide you, what do you find beautiful, and not and it's not going to be anything philosophic. I mean, unless you're really a philosopher, like a for real philosopher, not just you know someone who likes being sophisticated. I know so many philosophy graduates and shit that are just like, they are not motivated by the truth. To put it as nicely as I can. If you're a philosopher and you find truth beautiful, great. You can pursue that with a feeling. But That is going to be. I wish I had the hermit card to put up here. That's going to be. It's going to be a rewarding but lonely um, journey. Unless you could tap into some of that Machiavellian philosophy. There's some Machiavelli's got a bad rep, but he sure had some fucking fantastic, mind blowing ideas about how real philosophers should govern themselves politically, right? Anyway, but yeah, chances are your real love, your real virtue is not going to be the truth and philosophy. That's just pretty rare. But whatever it is, it's making the transition to just letting yourself, it might feel like you're going backwards. It might feel like going to, going to an emotional place after all this reasoning and logic is a step back. But I would argue that the opposite is true. That people, I think particularly, in the modern world, in the West, in first world countries, it's like we start off so intellectual, so intelligent, so reasonable, and we just keep building on that and building on that without realizing that there was like never any emotional foundation for it to be built on. Um, discovery of scientific truth is a huge motivator, but I don't think it's the one that people most respond to, even though I think it is the one that they respond to when they are inspired by knowledge. Nonetheless, don't resist, or rather resist the urge to slowly put off the inevitable change, whatever it is. You've got plenty of evolutions to come. Uh, you're gonna do a new thing in life, then that'll probably come to an end. Then you'll do another new thing. Then things will change. Then you'll change. Um, embrace the change, and potentially as an idea of where to look is look to the emotions, look to the intuitions, also possibly the relationships with people, not necessarily romantic, but just who you are in regards to other people. But consider virtues that inspire you, and maybe explore those as a foundation for the new cycle of emotions, values, actions, ideas. So that's the 10. And then Queen of Pentacles, as the opportunity. I think the Queen of Pentacles, pretty cool. The thing in the short that I mentioned was there are people we have to deal with sometimes whose insistence on their involvement and care in our lives is suffocating, right? So it's like, and then this is often a family member. It's almost only ever a family member or a romantic, intimate partner, sibling. Sometimes it could be friends. Like, you'd have to be pretty close friends, I think, in general, to have a relationship with someone like this that you would tolerate for extended periods of time, who would be someone who would be suffocating to you, oppressive with their insistence on helping you and caring, whatever. So that's why I think it usually tends to be family members, because it's a lot more difficult to just get rid of them, right? Get rid of them. And then I said, often this is simply caused by them not knowing or understanding how we want to be taken care of, and the solution is simply telling them. Oh yeah, I wrote simply twice there. Well, that could be improved. So I think this is Queen of Pentacles. Queen, King, Page, Knights. I think these represent human archetypes as opposed to experiential archetypes of situations that happen to us. So in this sense, I think this is specifically interacting with an archetypal caregiver, care provider, and it's amazing that there's been a couple of times in my life that I've transformed this kind of relationship from a negative one to a positive one. And yeah, and it was usually family members, and they just, it could be really annoying. They're like bosses that are trying to micromanage, and they keep asking you, and they're, you know, and it's like you could tell that they're like, okay, they're trying to help, I guess, but like it's like they won't fucking listen. They're like, hey, you want to watch some TV? I could turn on the TV for you. It's like, I look, I'm an adult. I could do this. Like, don't worry. Let's just, it's like, hey, do you want this? It's like, if I'm hungry, I can make myself food. Like, it like, it's like it insults our independence, or, you know. Um, but yeah, but the trick with these people is like, it's, you know they want to help. They have all this misplaced energy and love and care or whatever. That's how they want to operate. And being a person in being a person in that position, and not knowing how to help someone, how to care for someone, you know, um, it's it's extremely, it can be really painful, especially for parents, teachers, and anyone that's been around for a long time, that helped you throughout your life, anyone that helped through a whole bunch of simple stages. Like, so, this I think could be really representative of like a mother figure, right? It's like someone who like fed you, raised you, clothed you, sheltered you, when those were the only requirements that you had, and this person met those requirements flawlessly. Then maybe you were crying, maybe you were afraid of monsters under the bed. It's like, okay, they could, a new that's a new problem, but also, okay, they're able to care for that, right? But then you keep growing, and evolving and advancing as a person. And what if all of a sudden what if you have relationship problems? Like, they still want to be providing the care, but maybe they're no longer in a position to be of any service. It's like there's this hilarious and kind of tragic mistake that companies often make, where they keep promoting an individual until that individual is useless. It's like, oh, you're a good cashier, cool, we'll promote you to supervisor. Wow, turns out you're actually really good at supervisor, we'll make you a manager. It's like, wow, you're doing really great as a manager, we'll make you an executive. And then it's like, oh, you're really bad as an executive, okay, stay here. They won't roll you back to the last position that you were good at. And chances are you don't want that either. What are you going to, take a pay cut or something? But really, it's like, now you're useless. Now you're not contributing anything. When you were a manager, you were, you knew you were making a difference. You were like, I'm good at this job, right? People really appreciate what you do. Now you're like this shitty executive, and you could tell that, you're not really good enough, but you don't want to go back. No one wants to demote you. Like, yeah, imagine being a parent in that position. It's like, I was nailing all the diaper changes, the feeding, the school stuff, now I suck at this part. All right, sorry, I have to pause there for a sec. Yeah, but so it's kind of like that situation where you were just nailing it along all these steps, and now there's this new step, and now maybe you feel like you don't know how to contribute in this new area. And then yeah, so people often in this situation, like, they were really good at at managing all that internal stuff. And this is, Queen of Pentacles. Pentacles is like managing money, managing finances. One of the reasons I kind of like the Queen of Pentacles is it's kind of like a classic in terms of, economics. Like, it reminds me that, the word economics means, what is it's like household management or something. Like, ultimately, the first economy is the economy of the house. And one of the things that I do like about the tarot is this kind of division between the difference between the kings and queens. Is like, the queen is like the absolute ruler of the suit. She's like the expert of the suit, unsurpassed by any of the other court cards, right? The king is like the one who is sort of, he's the best at managing the relationship between the suit and things outside of the suit, right? Like the knights are totally outside of the suit, and so they're really good at like exploring the periphery. The pages are, I see the pages as being inside but not being, you know, they're not masters of the realm. They're kind of like, they're students, they're apprentices, they're they're inside. They're still fully committed to the inside, but they don't have all of the control and power and influence as the queen does. The knights are kind of like the king, but they're totally outside. They have, they're completely out there, solo, no backup, you know. Um, but yeah, there's this. I mean, I think the modern way of looking at it is more like the relationship between a masculine role and a feminine role, as opposed to a male role and a female role. Because at this point, I feel like, you could have whatever combinations of sex identity amongst people that are together. But I think that nonetheless, there's a lot of benefit. There's a lot to be gained from being in a relationship with someone who has kind of opposite specialities to yourself. So it's like, I would see, let's say, the Queen of Pentacles, I would see as like a neurotic, sensitive, individual, intuitive, and then the King as being the like low neuroticism, callous, kind of, you know, uh, overconfident almost, right? So it doesn't matter how those roles manifest themselves in two individuals, but it's like, yeah, if one person is an expert of managing all the shit inside the perimeter, and actually caring that a perimeter exists, like, you can't have home economics if you just give all your money away. You can't have home economics if you can't acknowledge that there is some sort of border that exists between you and the rest of the world, or your family and other families, or your house and the outside. And yeah, I think the queen is like symbolic of that, managing that sphere, that internal protected sphere. And then inversely, if you're doing that, like, you're not good at going out, at breaching that barrier and operating outside of it, because all your speciality is just on the inside, right? So you got someone else who's like, who's essentially inverted, and in that sense, they're they can thrive and make all sorts of gains, outside of that economic bubble. And then often, if you think about the like cliche traditional, I don't know, traditional whatever place, generally, it's like there's like a husband that goes out and he like makes the money, and then he just gives the money to the wife, and then the wife manages all the stuff in the home. She decides where the investments go. Or again, this is like the traditional. I think in Japan right now, I was reading that it's like almost like 90, it's like 85% or something of all married men have have they don't even know what happens with their money. It's like their paycheck goes straight to their wife, and then, you know, they're responsible for earning the money, and then but not managing it, right? And then she's responsible. She doesn't have to earn any of the money, but she has to manage all of it. Like, I think that's an interesting, um, what do you call it? Like, division of labor, and specialization. I certainly think that, any couple with that kind of division of labor will perform better than a couple where both people go out and kind of earn money and also kind of together manage the money of the household, but neither of them has the specialization, right? Like, but yeah, so insofar as this could represent an individual who could be really nurturing and really giving, I think that nurturing and giving is predominantly on the material plane, in terms of money, food, physical security, home, clothing, that kind of stuff. Could also be like could also be related to like beauty and personal appearance and personal standing in a community. So this could even take the form of, you know, your mom, or that kind of mom like person, being a little too controlling about how you fit into society, how you participate in the community, how your relationships are going, or like the kind of, when are you going to have kids? When am I going to have grandkids? Like that kind of a thing, right? And yeah, as much as that could feel suffocating, it's like it's coming from a good place. It's coming from someone who has been doing pretty well, and yeah, and I think the 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 trick, if you ever encounter that, like the opportunity, um, to take advantage of what this person wants to give, could be just as simple as just letting them know, like, where you need help in your life, what kind of, and it could just be as simple as like, you know hey, I would really love it if you could make me shepherd's pie. I haven't had shepherd's pie in a while. I've been really craving it. You've got that really, you make it really well. Can you make me some? Can you make me enough to last me a week? And it's like, that's great for you, obviously, because you get food made for you, but it's like, it's almost better for them. It's like, until they have some place to divert all that energy, like inspiration. If you're inspired, if you're full of this inspired energy, if it doesn't have an outlet, like, that's painful. That's uncomfortable, right? It's like pressure building up in some sort of container, and there's no valve to like let off the pressure. So the opportunity here, I think, is to, you know, just like, you're doing this person a favor by opening that valve, by giving them that opportunity to blow off some steam in the form of, something helpful, some service. Um, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video, and also a comment if you would like to be entered into the weekly draw for a free one-on-one reading. So far, I think we're only at like one comment this week, which is still an infinite percent increase from the last weeks. But yeah, gonna start doing some free readings soon. Take advantage of the incredibly low popularity of this channel while you can. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.